Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the most iconic games of all time, the classic JRPG that started it all, Final Fantasy I. I'll be exploring the gameplay and the story, all while going for that juicy platinum trophy. I want to start off by saying I've never played Final Fantasy I before. The first Final Fantasy I actually played, believe it or not, was the Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS5. And I liked it so much that I went back and played all the older ones from the original Final Fantasy VII up until Final Fantasy 15, except for 10-2, but that'll be for another video. I never got to experience any of these games when they first came out, so I'm excited to see where it all began. I'll be completing the game in its entirety, completing the bestiary, collecting every treasure, defeating every boss, and getting every trophy to ultimately answer the question, Final Fantasy I, was it any good? It depends who you ask. Some prefer the old turn-based games, while others prefer the more modern action-based games, like Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy 15. Released in 1987, Final Fantasy I revolutionized the RPG genre and set the stage for decades of unforgettable adventures. This classic RPG was developed and published by Square, now Square Enix, and was first released on the Famicom and NES. I honestly had no idea what a Famicom was before making this video. It turns out it was the original version of the NES before it was redesigned and named to the NES. The game was created by a team of developers led by the legendary Hironobu Sakaguchi, who had previously worked on several other Square games, including Rad Racer and the 3D battles of World Runner. He later worked on a game you may have heard of called Chrono Trigger. I actually really want to play that as well. Kingdom Hearts 1, and all of the Final Fantasy games from Final Fantasy II up until 10-2. Sakaguchi was inspired by his love of D&D and fantasy literature, and he wanted to create a game that combined these elements with the technology at the time. The development of Final Fantasy I was a challenging process, with the team facing numerous obstacles along the way. They had limited resources and a tight schedule, and the game's budget was reportedly so tight they could only afford one artist to create the game's graphics. Despite these challenges, the team managed to create a game that was both technically impressive and innovative. Final Fantasy I was one of the first RPGs to feature a customizable party system, which allowed you to choose your own classes and build your own parties. It was also one of the first games to feature a full-fledged story with characters and dialogue, which helped to set it apart from other RPGs at the time. When the game was released in Japan in 1987, it was a huge success. It sold over 500,000 copies in its first year, and it helped to establish Square as a major player in the gaming industry. The game was later released in North America in 1990, where it was similarly successful. Since its initial release, Final Fantasy I has been remade and released several times, including a 2002 remake for the Game Boy Advance and a 2023 Pixel Remaster for all modern platforms except for Xbox. I'm not sure why Square decided to skip out on an Xbox port of these games, but its influence can be seen in countless other RPGs, and it is widely regarded as one of the most important and influential games of all time. The game starts off with a very ominous cutscene, so let's give it a watch. This classic RPG tells the story of 4 warriors who are chosen by the elemental crystals to embark on a quest to save the world from darkness. At the beginning of the game, the world is in chaos. The elements are out of balance, and a great darkness threatens to engulf everything. The 4 warriors, who are from different lands and backgrounds, are each given a crystal that represents a different element: earth, fire, water, and wind. And they are told that they must use their power to restore balance to the world. As the game progresses, the warriors encounter a variety of different characters and enemies, and they learn more about the nature of the darkness that threatens their world. They discover that the villainous knight Garland, who they thought they had defeated at the beginning of the game, is actually a servant of a greater evil that has been manipulating events from behind the scenes. The 4 warriors travel to the past and defeat Garland before he becomes a servant of this greater evil, but they discover that this only delays the inevitable. They must journey to the deepest depths of the earth to face the true source of the darkness, the evil being known as Chaos.
The mission is to kill Chaos. That's all I know.
In the final battle, the warriors must use all their strength and skill to defeat Chaos and restore balance to the elements. With the help of the crystals and their own determination, they succeed and the world is saved. If you have played Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise like I have, then you know that it is a really bad game, but that's a discussion for another time. The real reason I bring it up is because you may recognize the name Garland, because that's who you play as in that game.
I never asked your name.
It's Jack.
Stop. I meant your last name.
Oh, Garland. My name's Jack Garland.
That's a lovely name.
That game closely resembles the original Final Fantasy story, but it's not a direct continuation or retelling of the story, but it is a cool little nod to the original Final Fantasy. During the story, I run into some familiar faces I know from other games like Bahamut, Cid, and Tiamat. Bahamut and Cid are basically in every Final Fantasy game I've played, so it's cool to see that they were here from the very beginning. Bahamut is, of course, the king of the dragons, and Cid is always an airship pilot of some sort. Tiamat is a powerful boss in this game, just like he is in the other games such as Final Fantasy XII. Man, he was brutal in that one. He had so much health. I like how they do these kind of things. The Final Fantasy games are completely separate, but they still feel connected in a way because of this. Overall, the story of Final Fantasy I is a classic tale of good versus evil. With a cast of memorable characters and an epic world-saving quest, it set the standard for storytelling in RPGs, and its influence can still be felt in games today. Now for the gameplay. First of all, let's talk about the battle system. Final Fantasy I Pixel Remaster features turn-based combat that's both strategic and engaging. You take turns selecting commands for your party members, such as attacking, using magic, or defending. Compared to later entries, the combat is very basic, but I do like it in the level up system. And I mean, the game came out in 1987, so I'll cut it some slack. You buy your spells from vendors, and there are 4 spells for each level, but you can only use 3 of them per character per level. The amount of times you can use the magic will increase as you level up. At first, you can only cast spells a few times, and eventually you can cast it a lot more. Each character has their own unique strengths and weaknesses, allowing for a variety of playstyles and party compositions. One of the key elements that makes Final Fantasy so fun is the job system. This system allows you to choose from 6 different classes at the start of the game, which are the Warrior, Thief, Monk, Red Mage, White Mage, and the Black Mage. In my playthrough, I went with the Warrior, Thief, Red Mage, and Black Mage. The Thief wasn't very good. I only picked him because I thought he could steal, but I guess that wasn't a mechanic yet. It just felt like a weaker version of the Warrior. The Warrior is a strong attacker and it has a lot of health, like your typical RPG warrior. Black Mages use black magic for damage, and White Mages use white magic for healing, and the Red Mage can use a bit of both, but not all spells. They are a mix of warrior and both of the mages. They are a bit more tanky than the mages and can use swords, but the most powerful spells can only be used by black and white mages respectively. I had to name my Black Mage Vivi. Final Fantasy IX was such a great game, and that game clearly took inspiration from this one, as Final Fantasy IX was a love letter to fans of the original games. Exploring the world of Final Fantasy I is also a lot of fun. The game features a vast overworld and numerous dungeons to explore, each filled with treasure and enemies to fight. The game also features a variety of side quests and hidden secrets, giving you plenty of reasons to explore every nook and cranny. the way you explore the world is just great. I really like the way the world unlocks to you one section at a time. The world is pretty open, but it blocks you off at certain parts until you progress in the story. At first you just walk around the land until you get a canoe, and now you can explore the lakes. Then later you unlock a ship from fighting the pirate in town, and then you can explore even more of the world through the ocean. Eventually you get to unlock even more of the ocean when you blow up the mines with the dwarves to open up the sea passage. And then, like most other Final Fantasy games, you get an airship to fly around and you move even faster and can explore even more. These are all just really cool ways of unlocking exploration through the story. There is no quest log or map markers or anything you see in modern games. You have to talk to all the NPCs and they direct you where to go next, which is a nice touch and helps with the world building, and it helps you not get lost. I did get lost a couple times, but overall I like this type of game design a lot. For example, this dwarf Smithy says he can craft me a powerful magical weapon if I can just bring him some adamantite, so now I will be on the lookout for that. I also found a grave that read "Here Lies Link," which I thought was so funny because it's clearly a shot at Zelda, which was a major game at the time, and of course it still is, with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom coming out later this year. Similar to how Elden Ring was when it released, it was just a big open world, full of adventure. You had no idea what you were doing, and you just explore and learn, and it's just a great feeling. I really wish we had more of these kind of games. Since I did play the Pixel Remaster, these had huge quality of life improvements over the original, like quick save and autosave. The original games definitely did not have autosave every time you walked into a room. You had to save at certain spots or in the overworld, and if you died, you had to go all the way back. But not for these Pixel Remasters. This makes the game so much easier to get into and doesn't set you nearly as far back if you die. It really is just annoying if you die and have to redo everything you just did, but I also see the side where it makes everything more tense, but I don't want to waste my time. The game is a lot less tedious now. They probably didn't have the technology back then to save so often. The remasters also have a 4x gil and 4x XP boost that you can turn on, and you can turn off encounters with the press of a button, which cuts down on grinding immensely. These games were originally meant to be very grindy and wanted you to spend a lot of time farming XP, but this allowed me to grind out the mobs I needed to complete the bestiary, then turn off the encounters and go on with my day. I learned very quickly that I'm used to modern games because when you level up, you do not heal the full. This was a shock to me. You actually have to use tents and inns to rest up and heal, which I never felt the need to do in any modern Final Fantasy game. The only time I remember is in Final Fantasy XIII Lightning Returns, and I only did that to skip time forward, not to actually heal. This, along with the way you explore the world, is definitely something the franchise has lost over the years, and might be one of the reasons people prefer to play the old games. I personally love the newer games though. I had a blast with FF7 Remake, the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, and Final Fantasy XV. I'm also very excited for FF16. It could be a contender for Game of the Year this year, and this year's already so stacked with other amazing games coming out like Spider-Man 2, Dead Space Remake, RE4 Remake, and Starfield. Overall, Final Fantasy I Pixel Remaster is a fantastic game that stands the test of time. Its engaging combat system, customizable job system, and vast world make it a must-play for RPG fans. If you're looking for a classic RPG experience, you can't go wrong with the Final Fantasy I Pixel Remaster. The next thing I want to talk about is the music. Produced by the legend himself, Nobuo Uematsu, the music in this game is as you would expect for any Final Fantasy game. It's really good. It had me whistling these tunes for days. It even has a music player that you can use from the main menu, and you can choose between the original or the remastered soundtrack. A few of my favorite soundtracks were the opening theme, Sunken Shrine. Chaos Temple. Matoya's Cave. Castle Cornelia. The battle theme. And how could we forget the iconic victory theme? Now onto the Platinum Trophy. This trophy list consists of 24 trophies. It's estimated to take about 15 hours and is a 3 of 10 difficulty according to this guide. Fortunately, there are no missable trophies in this game. I hate it when games have missables. The Platinum Trophy is split up into 3 main parts: the story trophies, the collectibles, and a few miscellaneous trophies you get along the way. The first trophy we get is A Hero's Journey, save Princess Sarah by defeating Garland. This is for completing the intro in the game. King Cornelia tells us that one of his most trusted knights, Garland, has betrayed the kingdom and kidnapped Princess Sarah, and he asks us to go save her. When we get there, we confront Garland and we defeat him, for now at least. Then we return Sarah to the king and the trophy pops. Next we get Field Research Basic, which is for completing 10% of the bestiary. These field research trophies are just for completing the bestiary, which is a log of all the enemies you have based in the game. There are a total of 128 creatures, and you have to get a trophy for completing 10%, 50%, and 100%. This part was very grindy. I had to go back and find all the entries I missed and complete random battles until I found them. The last one I needed was a rare super boss called War Mech. It took me around 30 minutes just to get it to spawn, but I've heard other players say it took them hours just to get it to spawn, so I think I might have got pretty lucky. I heard a lot of players encountered this guy on accident back in the day and had to reload their saves because of that, just because they weren't prepared for it. But luckily for me, since I did grind out the rest of the bestiary, I was way over leveled and I easily defeated this boss, and he goes down without a hitch. Next we get Thrifty Spender, Smart Saver, and Money Bags. These 3 trophies are just for collecting 10k, 50k, and 100k gil respectively. Apprentice, Experienced, and Legendary Warrior. Again, another simple one. Defeat 100, 300, and 500 monsters for each trophy. Earth's Blessing, restore the Earth Crystal's light. You get this one from finishing your first main dungeon in the game, Cavern of the Earth, which contains the Earth Crystal. To restore the crystal, you have to defeat the Lich. This boss was very easy since it was the first boss that you really encounter. He also drops a Star Ruby, which we can give to a giant in order to unlock more of the world to explore. Rekindled Flame, restore the Fire Crystal's light. Similar to the last trophy, you must restore the Fire Crystal light this time. It is located in Mount Golg, which is a giant volcano full of lava. As you walk around this dungeon, you take damage from said lava, and to restore the crystal, you have to defeat the boss Merilith, and it's just another easy boss who uses fire-based spells, very thematic. Rookie, Veteran, and Legendary Treasure Hunter. Throughout the game, there are treasure chests hidden all over, and you have to collect every single one of them for the trophies. You get a trophy for collecting 10%, 50%, and 100% of them, just like the other ones. There are 249 chests in total, but luckily none are missable, and the map shows you on the bottom how many chests you have left in each zone, so it's not too bad. Seasoned Hero, you get this trophy for reaching level 50. I got this naturally playing the game. Token of Courage, gain titles of courage from Bahamut. Bahamut, the Dragon King, tells me I need a token of courage from the castle to the west, then he will give us an upgrade. So, I go to the castle and find this maze of sorts. You get teleported to random rooms until you find your way up to the top of the temple. It was a little confusing, but eventually I got through it. At the end, I obtain a rat tail and return to Bahamut with it, and he upgrades our classes. This feels so good getting a massive upgrade like this. My warrior goes to a knight, my thief turns to a ninja, the red mage goes to a red wizard, and the black mage upgrades to a black wizard, who can now equip max level black magic spells. I should have done a white mage instead of the red mage just to get those top tier spells as well, but ultimately at the end it didn't really matter. The red mage is still really good. Revitalized water, restore the water crystal's light. This is the third out of 4 crystals we must restore. The water crystal is found in the sunken shrine, and to get there you must unlock the submarine, and to unlock that you have to save the fairy captured by merchants, who in return gives you the Oxyale. Then you can give the Oxyale to this girl in town, and she gives you the submarine, and you use that submarine to get to the water temple. Once you get there, you have to defeat the Kraken boss. This boss goes down very quickly, and the trophy pops after we click the crystal. Adventurous Wayfarer, travel to all map locations. This one is self-explanatory. Travel to every location on the map, including towns, castles, caves, towers, and dungeons. The Flying Fortress is the last location I visited, and the trophy pops. Wind's Caress, restore the Wind Crystal's light. The fourth and final crystal we restore. This one is located on the Flying Fortress dungeon, and first you have to defeat Tiamat, a very powerful dragon. In this dungeon there's also the super boss Warmech, which we found on the bridge directly before Tiamat earlier. I also found the adamantite the Dwarven Smith was telling us about earlier, so we'll take that back to him after we fight Tiamat. Since I did grind so much for all the previous trophies, this boss was cake. I popped haste and berserk on my attackers and went to town. Magic's not very good in this game, so you really want attackers. Tiamat stood no match for me, and the trophy pops. Sword of Myth. I went back to the Dwarven Smith and turned the adamantite I found into the Excalibur. This was so awesome. I just love getting the ultimate weapon at the end of a Final Fantasy game, like in FF7 with the Ultima Blade. It's definitely the best weapon in the game, and you truly feel the power spike when you equip it. Prophecy Foretold, defeating Chaos.
We're here to kill Chaos.
Is the final boss in the game. Chaos is
Are you Chaos?
located in the Chaos Shrine, which can't be reached until you've already restored all 4 crystals. We learn that we must travel back in time to stop this evil being, so we step through the time gate, and here we are confronted with Garland from the beginning of the game, who we thought we had already defeated, but he manifests in pure chaos.
This soul is mine to devour. A feast fit for chaos!
And now we have to defeat Chaos. This boss has a lot of health, as you'd expect from a final boss, but again, I just pop Haste and Berserk and go to town until he is down. Now for the last and certainly least trophy, the hidden game. You have to play the 15 puzzle game. I didn't know what this was, I had to look it up, but if you get in your ship and hold down X and spam circle, you can actually play this hidden mini game, and then you get a trophy for it, and that's the platinum trophy. So, Final Fantasy 1, was it any good? I'm going to say definitely yes. I enjoyed it. It was very simple, but the progression was very fun. Every new town I went to, I would find new magic, weapons, and armor to buy. The music was amazing. The job system was cool. You could choose what you wanted to play as in your party. I liked seeing the origins of some of Final Fantasy's most memorable characters like Cid and Bahamut. As for the rating, I'm going to give this one a 2 for difficulty. The fun, I would say it was about an 8. It was really fun. The grind, it was almost non-existent. There was no missables or anything, so I'll give that a 3. And the time, it took me about 12 hours, so a little bit quicker than what the guide recommended. This game is definitely still worth playing in 2023, and I see myself coming back and playing this again. But for now, I'm on to Final Fantasy 2.